Kathleen Richard, and the things that I brought along that I love to use because they fit in my purse. No matter where I go, these things are in my purse. So this is a flat eyeglass case which keeps all of my tools corralled so they're not in the bottom of my bag. The Niji brush pen, somebody's already talked about. They come in a round point in 2 sizes. The water is in the barrel. And they come in flats in 2 sizes. You can take them on airplanes, which is what I like about them. In here I also have this Zig black marker that has a fat point and a fine point. And they are waterproof. I carry a small brush, and this I learned about here at an earlier meeting, which is just a little kid's paint set, and they have really low-grade watercolors in them, but you can pop those out and put your own watercolor from a tube, the colors that you like, and mix there, and then a sharpened pencil. And I don't know if anybody will talk about this or not, but again, at an earlier meeting, somebody brought out a credit card as their favorite art making tool, which I love the idea of a credit card, but they actually didn't use it as a credit card. They used it to move color across a page, dragging, and I've started to do that, and I just think it's the best thing. Wow. So everything that's in my kit I learned about here.
My name's Ruth Smith, and I have a lot of the same things that really. So I have the mini mister, the water brush, the pit pens, and the Stadlers. Those are all on my first list. So I'm down to the other stuff. I have 2 things I like. One is I have this very tiny palette, and this is brand new. It hasn't even been used yet. With Daniel Smith watercolors, which I like. I like very fine tipped pens, which was like those. And I just got this one. It's a hybrid technical. It's like a 0.3, so it makes very fine lines. And then I was looking for a way to copy a map. So this is like graphite paper. It's kind of like the carbon paper from back in the days of receipts when they did the credit cards that way, but it's a big sheet. It's 18 by 36. I never knew such a thing existed until I was trying to make this map, which is, I'm going to Washington, D.C. in a couple days. So this is my new journal for that. And so here's the map of D.C. And I used the paint. Basically, I used everything here except for the pit brush marker to make this. So, and then I have another page. It's kind of another part of Washington. So,
okay. My name's Marsha Mysick, and I'm surprised nobody's mentioned the ever popular kneaded eraser. It's like when I draw, it has to be in my hand or I can't draw. And my other 2 tools, this is a parallel bladed X-Acto knife, although X-Acto is a brand and this is an OFA. So if you have to cut slits of things, perfect. And I'll show you in a minute. And this is by American Traditional, and it's a scorer, so if you're going to have to make folds, especially across the grain, this, by using the scorer, you can prevent some of the cracking. There are 2 tips, one for thinner paper and one for thicker paper. And I used these 2 tools when I made my little birds in the hand for one of our projects a couple of years ago, because I needed to cut and leave space so that when it folded over, it made room for the paper. And I also used the scorer to score when I folded.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Hughes, and I'm here to talk about some of my favorites. One of my favorites is a tiny camera. because I know it's so tiny. It has an internal memory, so there's no card, so it saves on space, and it's pocket size, so I can have it with me wherever I am, and it works great for birds because birds move so fast. You can maybe get a shape with the gesture really quick, but you don't get any detail. So I've discovered that this is super, even in my yard at home, to take a quick picture. I can start in my journal and then have a reference after.
So who makes that?
Oh, yeah, this is a Nikon Coolpix. Nikon Coolpix. Tiny camera. Yeah, I got that for Christmas. Very exciting. One other thing that I really like is toned paper. I like drawing on a piece of paper that is fawn colored or sandy colored. I like the way that the watercolor and the pen looks on it. If you're using a pencil, you're already kind of starting with your midtones. You just add highlights and shadows, which is nice. So I brought a sheet of knit again with me to remind me of that. Otherwise, I have a lot of the same things that everyone else has brought today. I've been making these little pencil cases, so all of my supplies are in this little box. So everything is in here. I have 2 water brushes, the medium size and the big flat for washes. One cool, I've discovered that the big flat, I don't know if anyone has this, is adjustable. That you can take the thing that makes it flat off, and then you have like a mop, which works really great for background or sky. It's a recent discovery. And if the bristles are damp, it goes back together without like fraying, so it goes back on pretty easily. So I did it twice now, and there it goes. So that's kind of a fun tip. I do like the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. I also have been using the Pitt pen in brush tip, which I really like as well. And the calligraphy tipped Faber-Castell Pitt as well. I like that you get the variable line. I'm particularly liking these heavier pens over the thinner pens that I normally use in this new journal that I just picked up that has super textured paper in it. And I'm noticing as I'm taking notes that I need the thicker pen to like go up and down all the bumps in the paper itself. So if you have kind of a rougher textured paper, that's kind of something that you might want to consider, is having a little bit heavier pen nib as you work on it. Other fun things that I have in here is a Pentel Sunburst gel, which has worked really well for a gel pen. It's kind of nice to have a white pen to go over the top of watercolor to add a highlight. And it's also fun to have a red permanent pen. It can give your journaling kind of a different look to sketch with a red pen and then watercolor over the top. Makes things look kind of kooky. And then, of course, Daniel Smith watercolor in the teeny tiny to go palette. That's it.
Hi, I'm Tom Winterstein, and the thing I use most often now is this sketching board that I made. It was an idea I got from a friend of mine named Derek Davis, who's a plein air painter. And it's something that's in the process, like every plein air painter I know. We're always modifying our easels because they're never perfect. This is made up with a piece of 1/4-inch plywood. It's got a piece of plywood on the back. It's got a quick release clamp, and it's got a plate that you can buy from the Gorilla Box folks, Judson Outfitters. I have cut slots into it for ink bottles because I do a lot of ink drawing. I have a hole for where the stopper goes, a little water bottle. And I bought a tilting head, untilted, and I mounted it on an old tripod I have. I find that Even though this is a really small area, I'm going to get this wrong. And it works. At any rate, I'm in a rush here. With the clamps, I put a fairly large journal on it. I find that this can be used, I use it a lot for life drawing. I can also use it because it's small and portable. I also can take it with me places. And you can just extend one leg if you want to use it as a monopod. And it's great with a monopod when you're sitting, like at a park bench. The other things I always carry with me is a Noodler's flex pen. And it's got platinum carbon ink in it because it works. It does not clog the pen. And it's extremely black and waterproof. And I can always carry a notebook like this, which I have all sorts of things in it, but I make small sketches, still life studies, and so on. And that's it.
Hi, I'm Stendahl, and I've brought a couple of things which I have been using a lot lately. And one of them is, someone's already talked about stencils. I've gone a little stencil crazy myself. This is my favorite stencil in the universe. I'll hold it here so that you can see it. I love it. I'm putting it on everything. If you stand still next to me, I'll probably stencil this onto you. I just think it's wonderful. It's also got pink all over it. I've also discovered in the last 2 months that I love pink. I can't get enough of pink. But anyway, what I do with this stencil is one of the other things I brought are these Brilliance rubber stamp pads that have Brilliance ink on them. They're a little bit glittery, but when they dry, they're waterproof, so if I want, I can paint right over them. And I get these little petal pads, so they're shaped like a little petal, because they're real easy to do sort of little coloring around things, but also you can take the stencil, and if you just hold the stencil down, you can just move the petal pad around the stencil, and bingo bango, you know, all of this is colored in no time, which I just think is fantastic. And of course it's pink. And then you can take a darker color. Now sometimes I get a little too aggressive. This is a Versamark, but it's the same shape. But this has come off because I've been too aggressive working with it. But I can change the stencil just a little bit and go in and color with this purple. So you get kind of an offset version of the two. And it gives, yeah, ooh, and it's pink. You know, did I mention it was pink? So, okay, so there's that. Then the other thing that I've been using a lot lately is the Montana markers, the acrylic Montana markers. They come in a finer point. I don't know that it's called fine point or bullet point. I think the bullet point is a little heavier. But so there's a couple writing tips. And then there's some wider tips. This is, see here what this one, I think this is, yeah, 30 millimeter. So this is the widest one that I have. You can see that whole thing across there is the tip. And then I've also got some that are 15 that are pretty wide. And some of you have seen me use those when we go on sketch outs because I just want to get the background. Or I've done a bunch of sketches and I don't like some of them, so I just isolate the one I really like. And so you got to shake them up a little bit, but it's acrylic, it doesn't smell, it doesn't have a solvent smell, so if I can stand them, you can stand them. You have a little pump action to get them going up and down like a lot of these paint markers. Oops. And then I was too heavy on my pump action, so it's not that sloppy. But then look at that coverage that I get, you know? And it's acrylic, so except for the fact that I was a little aggressive there and was leaky, it's going to be dry in just a couple of moments. And the other really great thing about, it is that all of my pens, I use the Faber-Castell Pitt calligraphy pen a lot. I use the Pentel Pocket Brush pen. I use the Staedtler pigment liners. All of them work on this surface when it's dry. There's none of that plastic acrylic repelling action. So I really recommend this, and if I hadn't gummed this all up, I could also show you that you can even stencil with this, so it's a real great tool. So that's me.
Where do you get them?
Can you replace the ink in the ink pad? Or
Yes, you can replace the ink in here.
No, in the pink one.
Oh, in the pink one, yes, you can get re-inkers. But my problem is that I tend to be hard on these little ones, and the pads tend to delaminate from their stand before I need to re-ink them. So I've never re-inked one. But I have bigger pads, and you can re-ink them. The Brilliance comes in little jars, and that's great. Jean asked me about the ink for these. You can get empty pens, and you can get the acrylic ink / paint. I don't know how they define it. You can get that in special little bottles, and so you could actually, if you don't like this orange, you can mix your own orange by putting a little brown in it, so you can mix your colors. They have a range of colors, but you can mix them. I get mine at Wet Paint. They also make a solvent-based marker, which I don't use because it's too smelly. What was the other question? Oh, are the tips replaceable? I don't know that the tip on this one is replaceable, but I know the smaller ones, the writing ones, the tips are replaceable. You can get whole little sets of new tips. So it's a really versatile tool. It's going to last a long time. If I decide I get sick of orange, I can fill it with another color. What's the name of it again? It's the Montana marker, the acrylic-based marker. And like I said, I get mine at Wet Paint. Pretty much anywhere there's graffiti artist tools sold, it's for graffiti artists. And that little marble you hear in there is just to help shake it up before you use it.